Baseball is dead.
Rest in peace.
Kind of wish I was dead, Dallas. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no. No, that's how I feel. That's how I feel today.
Are you serious? The Jake McCarthy news hit that hard for you?
Who the fuck is Jake McCarthy?
Wow.
Who the fuck is that?
That's
unbelievable. I mean, quick apology to the McCarthy family, who I know listens to this podcast. He doesn't.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Jeez. You kidding me?
Who is that?
New Rockies outfielder.
Congratulations. I honestly thought you were going to say he was an NFL coach that got fired.
No.
Yeah.
No, he's just he's a major league player.
Oh,
he's a real major league player.
Congratulations, right?
Yes, congratulations.
Congratulations.
I think if you were on the Rockies and you now find yourself on a different team, I mean, there's a select few that maybe it's not a lateral move, but it's a congratulations.
Yeah, I find myself on the underdog team.
It's not that though.
He's
on the Rockies now.
He's on the Rockies now. So the congratulations.
Yeah,
you're still in the big leagues.
Yeah, you're in the show. You're in the show.
Yeah, that's how that goes.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. I know that. Yeah, you guys used the Underdog Fantasy app for NFL Sunday yesterday. I actually watched some games.
Did you? Yeah, I got to tell you, I have watched the games, and it's been electric, bro. It has been absolutely electric football down to the last possession almost. It's been great. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I thought the Patriots game was boring, if we're being honest. You watch it, Jayhay? You seem very high.
Yeah, you can't possibly call that game. You can't possibly call 16-3 electric. DB had me through those first two games yesterday. That's fine. Those were last possession games. That game last night, great if you're a Patriots fan. Absolutely coma-inducing if you were a fan of anybody else or just neutral.
The last teeter that Drake May threw was a fucking dime.
Yeah.
A dime. I mean,
I had moved on at that point. Yeah. Patriots win. Congratulations.
It wasn't super exciting if we're keeping it 100, but excited for next week, because they're going to keep playing the games. That's for sure. Make sure you sign up with the promo code Jared. That's JARED to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a special pick on Underdog. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code Jared. Yeah, that next week of games, is Jake back there? Oh, yeah, but they won't be able to hear him Jake's there. Yeah, they won't be able to hear him. That sucks. I was going to ask it because he loved the fucking Patriots. He's a big Pats fan. I feel like I'm in a great spot because I'm open about being a bandwagon guy. Like, I watched the last week of the season and then I watched last night. Like, I'm not going to, if they win the Super Bowl, I'm not going to pretend to be some big Patriots fan. Like, I stopped caring once Tom Brady left. I don't care anymore.
No, there's been a lot of getting on the wagon in Massachusetts lately. There's been a lot of getting off
the wagon. Yeah, that's a team. That's like you're referring to Alex Bregman signing with the Cubs. You mean?
Is that where you wanted to start?
With? Yeah, let's just get it over with, right?
You want to start there?
Yeah, let's just start right there. Saturday Fan Fest, right? Fan Fest at Fenway Park. Oh yeah. I was there. Me and T, we were there, and man, I can't even, now that I'm coming down from the anger and rage and frustration part of it, there is a little bit of relief that people will stop asking me about it. Like that to me is the, I guess, the cope. People like, oh, he's coping. Yes. The relief that I will have now where I can just exist in my fucking life and people will maybe ask me, I don't know, how I'm doing, instead of what's the deal with Bregman. That's going to be a great change. It'll probably start this week. At some point this week, I'll run into someone that I haven't seen in a while, and instead of asking me about Alex Bregman, they'll be like, "So how you been? What's new?"
You think that'll happen? You think you guys trading away the clubhouse leader and arguably your best player on the team won't be a topic? Or sorry, losing him in free agency. I apologize.
You've been fucking up a lot recently. I saw your dumbass tweet about Roman Anthony signing an extension, even though he already did.
Yeah. Well, I'm busy watching. I'm busy watching the Rookie of the Year season unfold. I legitimately just forgot about that.
The Dallas post Bregman troll plan has been. It's been a little bit of a stumble out of the gate.
In all honesty, there was no
people
trolling.
Are gonna be like, Dallas,
there was no trolling there.
Does Dallas still got it? Does he still have it, or is he kind of just in his 40s?
There was no trolling. That was not a troll job. I promise you. I legitimately was like I started thinking to myself, because I was trying to wonder, like, okay, if this is the stance that this organization is now taking, at what point in time are we going to understand what the criteria is for giving a guy a no trade clause, for handing him, quote unquote, the keys to his career? Like, what does the criteria look like? If there's been exceptions made before,
there have.
Why would this not be one of those exceptions with what Alex Bregman and the pedestal he was placed on? Why would that not be? Why, if he doesn't fit the exception, then surely Roman Anthony would. Well, he didn't fit the exception either. So then what is the exception? What does that look like?
There is a distinction that the other two guys that got no trade clauses had that those two names that you mentioned do not have, and that would be winning a World Series with the Red Sox. Chris Sale got it in his extension after winning an 18.
Does that make much sense to you, though? Like, okay, so you've given us what...
I'm not saying that's the team policy. I'm just saying that is a distinction.
No, that's fair. But does that distinction matter much? Because if we're looking at it objectively, we would say, it makes no sense, because
you want
we
someone
got what
to
you wanted
long term and agree to a no trade to win a championship. You don't want to reward the person after they've already accomplished that.
Well, that was my entire thought process. That's why, and I was just
I'm not saying it makes sense. We don't do shit that makes sense around here, Dallas. Before we hit the record button, I said to Jayhay in Dallas, like, I'm tired. Like, I miss the days of talking shit on behalf of the Red Sox. It's been half a decade. There's probably people that have been listening to like our shows with just the whole team here that are only familiar with my content talking shit about the Red Sox, which is crazy to me.
Well, like I said this, and I brought this up because I always bring up the fact that a few years ago, David Ortiz essentially walked into the spring training complex and basically like walked out like 5 minutes later, because it's like nobody wants to hear anything I would have to say, and that's fine. Nobody cares that I might have advice or I might have information that could help them or just give them a different perspective. Nobody really cares. And that's not a Hall of Fame player crying, woe is me, nobody cares about me. You're a Hall of Fame baseball player, and you walk in to the clubhouse of any one of your organization's levels, single A, double A, triple A, rookie league. I don't care. People should, one, know who you are. Number two, there should be like a small line forming to some extent. Like, what can I ask? What can I listen to that might help me? This guy's clearly done it at a high level. I would like to just know some things. I'd like to hear some things I might be able to pick up on. And when his sentiment was that there's just not that vibe anymore, I started to think about this then, and I've held this opinion for a long time. The game and the players who play it today have changed and evolved in such a way where we have to remember, kids that are playing high school baseball as we speak right now, in their minds, and definitely in their parents' minds, to a certain extent, have already started to develop star power because they've been on perfect game lists, right? Top 10 lists here, top 10 lists there. Like, buddy, I live in California and the team in Texas is paying to fly me and my family out. They're covering the cost of the tourney for me. They're covering everything. Like, I'm that dude. I'm going to Florida next weekend after I just went to Texas last weekend to do the same thing. And I'm not paying for any of that. So there's a certain level of star power that is coming along with the amateur athlete that was non-existent in prior years. That amateur athlete now turns into an NIL superstar at the collegiate level. So there's star power that has been following them since before they had armpit hair, all the way to the D1 level and now into the pros. So when they get to their first year of pro ball, the shine of a Hall of Famer walking around in the clubhouse with information that could help them just doesn't offer the same illumination that it once did. And so it's bananas to me to think that's where we've got, that is kind of where we're at with a lot of players today. And I value the players who try to do their best in explaining to these younger players, hey man, there's a certain level of respect that needs to be maintained and that should be given to these guys. But Jared, like, it just goes back to the criteria of like, what does an organization value? And if you're a place that you still believe is a destination landing, and I hate to say this to Red Sox fans, but that ship has sailed. Mm-hmm. That ship is no longer in the harbor. That ship has sailed. You're not the destination that you thought you once were. Excuse me, that you once were. Because there's no doubt, like just the idea of joining the Red Sox so that you could be a part of the most storied rivalry in baseball and you could be an impact player in that. Like, fuck yeah. Fuck yes. Are you kidding me? That's something that you would strive to be. And there's a lot of people who wanted to join the Yankees because of that. And as we're finding out, and I think Yankee fans are finding out, that same shine, again, is not as luminous as it once was. So we're dealing with different levels of understanding of what star power is and what it looks like. But I think from an organizational perspective, this was tough to watch and tough to see Red Sox fans go through. I even said before we hit record, like you said, like, you know, I expressed my sincere, like, apologies. Like, buddy, I've been there. I know what that feels like. And I don't wish that on anybody. I don't wish that on any fan to have to go through this. And Jayhay, I'll let Jayhay kind of lay out what him and I were talking about, but sort of what I would call the whittling effect of where Red Sox fans were at the beginning of how this started to how this thing kind of ended up.
Yeah, I just think and Jared, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it certainly seemed like at the beginning of the offseason, there was like, the conversation was like Bregman here, and then we're going to get a power bat and we're going to get a starting pitcher. And then it was, okay, and now we're going to get, the bat's going to be Bregman, but we're going to go out and get this. But okay, now it's Bregman and now he's gone. And like, it just like when we talked about the Sonny Gray, Wilson, Contreras deals, like part of me, and I think Red Sox Nation viewed them in the light of these are pieces of a larger puzzle where the big piece is still going to be fit in next to these guys. And I do think like some of the pessimism with those deals is more well-founded now in light of them losing out on Bregman, unless it's replaced by Bichette or somebody like that, where it does seem to be like, well, they whiffed on the bigger, expensive acquisitions that we were sort of semi-promised and executed the no-risk, lower-cost acquisitions that were kind of right in front of them while still acknowledging that those were good moves. I think it's extremely frustrating. Another season of kind of a certain message telegraphed to the fans from the front office and ownership, and a kind of like a semi-completely separate one actually executed, it feels like. And I do feel like, you know, without being completely doomsday, because this isn't some shit team, like it's not obviously a bad roster, but part of the peril of operating in the AL East is that this sort of loss of 3 to 5 wins really could fucking matter a lot. And the margins are extremely thin between, I would say, all of these teams on some level, while acknowledging that the Blue Jays deserve to be, you know, the on paper or consensus favorite. But like the difference between the Red Sox being a wild card contender and operating at or near the top of the division and being the worst team in the division or being closer to the worst team in the division, like kind of is just an Alex Bregman or the failure to bring back Bregman and get somebody else. Like, I do feel like it is that kind of narrow. And so that's a huge bummer too, because you're putting yourself at a lot of risk. Even if, yeah.
Well, if the pivot, and I mean, we were wearing you out about it a couple of weeks ago, Jared, about the, the Bo Bichette. Oh, I mean, maybe a Kyle Tucker. Maybe, like I was telling you, you're coping. You're coping with the fact that I think somewhere deep down inside, the Bregman deal is not going to pan out. And not that was the case, but fuck, man, here we are. And not that you were coping in that moment, but the reality is Bregman is not here. And we find out that, sure, the money, not only was the money a little short, I mean, I almost, dare I say, negligible to the tune of $10 million, but we understand that the deferral schedule was very different. And we also know that there was no trade clause provided. And that was, in my opinion, the sticking point. You give Alex Bregman the freedom to end his career either in Boston or wherever he may go, because you're ready to move on and cash in on whatever level of asset he is at the time you're willing to cash in on him. You give him that control, that freedom over his own career, and Alex Bregman is reporting to Florida. Alex Bregman is probably in Florida in the next week. But that right there was the difference, in my opinion.
Jared, do you feel differently? Like, does the Rafael Devers thing feel different to you? And I'm sure you guys touched on this on some level on Section 10, but does it feel different in the light of not paying Alex Bregman? Because to me, it always felt like we're sending out Devers as like a cost and roster pivot. This is part of the reason, of course. And that money will be allotted to probably Alex Bregman or somebody else. But now it just kind of feels like that money was just getting off the books, and this team looks just kind of streamlined now, if you want to use like a corporate term. Like, is that fair, or do you feel the same way about it that you always have?
So I don't know if this was reported or if this was like something that we heard, but someone internally with the Red Sox, I don't know if it was Breslow or someone, whatever, up high, had basically said that Devers is going no matter what. If it wasn't because he was being pouty because of the Bregman situation, like they just didn't like the contract. So if it was like, the optics of we're getting rid of him because he's a bad teammate and he's not a team player and yada yada, and had the meeting with John Henry and it didn't go well, so we shipped his ass out of here. If you can offload Rafael Devers under the guise of he's a bad teammate, bad team player, and those things might be true, but whatever. Like, that's how it was packaged to the fans. So, I mean, whether or not he was a golden teammate that moved over to first, like, they didn't like the fucking contract, so they were going to trade him anyway. I don't look back on it and say, man, they shouldn't have done that. I think if you were dead set on trading Devers, what they should have done is at least wait until the offseason so that, but again, this is me talking because I can't talk from the Red Sox perspective, because from the Red Sox perspective, the goal was achieved. They found a team to take the entire deal. That was the goal. For me, if I'm trying to win a championship, I would have waited until the winter or the trade deadline to get a better return. Like, eat a little bit of it, whatever, if you have to, but you can't tell me that they couldn't have gotten a better return for Rafael Devers. You couldn't have told me, like, all you had to do was say, look at what Vladdy Jr. got, $500 million. You can't tell me that this deal doesn't look good to you if it's like a first baseman type DH situation comparative to what Vladdy got. Yeah, like there would have been a bigger market if they waited, but they didn't care about the return. They cared about offloading the money, and they accomplished that. And after doing so, what did they do with the money? They got fucking 36-year-old Sonny Gray, who's a good pitcher, but he's a Band-Aid. This is a 1-year deal. Like, so you asked, or you talked about the perspective going into the offseason, Jayhay. We were thinking, they were talking big bat, bring back Bregman, big bat, and a number 2.
Right. That's exactly what I said, right, D?
You did not bring back Bregman. The big bat is Wilson Contreras, which good bat, not big bat, good bat. And then the number 2, we were all thinking hey, let's just pick up where we left off at the trade deadline. Like, if you thought you got close for Joe Ryan, let's revisit that. It seems like a lot of the framework has been set. So let's revisit that and actually get to the finish line, because it's not a trade deadline situation. We have months to discuss this and figure this out if we want to. And then it was well, how do you like Sonny Gray? So it's that's where the Devers' money was picking up salaries of Band-Aid type players, mid-30s players who are good, but they're not going to be part of a run here. They're there to plug holes for 2026. And then in 2027, you're looking at the lockout situation and you're well, you're just going to have the same offseason all over again, only Bregman's not going to be available to you.
So then isn't it fair to say that the Red Sox, ultimately, that money went into their pocket?
Yes.
Can't we just say that?
Yes.
Okay, so then
I want to say
I'm going to say this.
Out of revenue generated and money spent, the Red Sox were 23rd last year. Yeah. They made 500 and change and they spent less than 300, whatever. Yeah, it was a big gap.
So then, dare I say the Red Sox fit the mold of teams that are approaching seasons now, as we don't need to go for the division. We don't need to spend money to be as competitive as we're okay being. And they are okay being this competitive. However this looks, this is more than okay for them. Now, this is okay. This is how we're going to do it. We're call them Band-Aids. We call them supplemental implementation of players that we feel can help us.
I think it started with the Mariners. The Mariners said the quiet part out loud. We're good with just winning whatever it was, 87 games, 87 wins. That's the goal, because if we get to that point, that's the bare minimum we have to do to potentially get into the postseason under this current format. I think a lot of other teams think that way. The Mariners just happen to say it publicly, and it is what it is. I think, what was it? Was it the Angels? There was was it? I can't remember which owner it was that this was attributed to. It was the Angel. I want to say it was the Angels, but it's are we in the World Series championship winning business, or are we in the entertainment business? I'm spending money to put a product on the field that's entertaining, so that when you show up to the ballpark all summer long, you have a good time, you buy a beer, you buy a hot dog, it's family friendly. It's, I'm running a circus. I'm not, I guess Steve Cohen's not the best example because he hasn't won a World Series, but an owner that comes in, buys a team, and is just hell bent on winning a championship at any cost. Not every owner is like that. It's just
see that's where I balk at the notion of owners coming in and acquiring the most expensive and top tier free agents as being the way that they express their desire to win championships. For me, having a player like Alex Bregman in-house and understanding what he means to the group and knowing what type of player he can be and what type of impact he can have for you, knowing that and valuing that by handing him the keys to the remaining part of his career, that shows me that you do desire to win championships, because there are certain things that you're willing to do to try to make that happen because you understand the value of this player. It's not about going and getting the top tier free agent. It's about going and getting a guy who by default is in that top tier, but is also bringing certain intangibles to the table that you're probably not going to get in other places. In this free agent market.
I'll tell you this, Dallas, a player from the team, the 2025 team, after Bregman signed elsewhere, texted me and said, I don't think the average fan has a total understanding of how important he was to last year's team. We won more games because of him and his preparation and player coaching, even like when he was fucking injured.
Yeah. No, trust me, I know all about having guys like that in the room and how impactful they are, what they mean. There's when you have guys like Alex Bregman walk into the room each and every day, you're almost embarrassed that you don't get there before he does, if that's the case. From there, if you can see him, you know what that means? It means one of two things. You are working with him or you're in the wrong fucking place because you're not doing what you should be doing or something that you could be doing to get better. So when you see Alex Bregman in the room, you can account for his time based on looking at the clock because he has a process. He has an order of operation that brings a certain level of inherent accountability to the room. Everybody, because you can't look at him and watch him go about his business and then you not follow suit. How do you do that? You don't have the skin on the wall that he does. You don't have the dirt under the spikes that he does. So when somebody like that is a part of the group, there's just that level of accountability that cannot be replicated. That's not something that you can just go and try to piece together with this acquisition and this acquisition, or that's not something you can put a Band-Aid on. That is a void. That is a void that is extremely difficult to fill. And that's what I mean by acknowledging that, because there's another perspective that you're always going to have to look at this from. There's another lens that you have to view this through, and that is the ownership, the business perspective. And you might ask, well, was it smart? Is it smart to give that player at this age that money and then also have him have the ability to just to be a rock there and say, no, I'm not going there. Nope, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I'm going to die in this Red Sox uniform. And from a business perspective, if you have made peace with not being as competitive as your fan base would like to, because that makes more dollars and it makes more sense to you business-wise, well, then that's a tough conversation that you're going to have with the fans. And I take a moment from the clip that you posted when you asked John Henry, how
are the Red Sox still a priority?
And there was something that he did.
He looked at his watch.
And that right there.
How much time do I have left up here before I get the fuck out of here?
Well, that is clearly the way to interpret it. And that's what I think on the surface. I'm going to get a little deeper.
The flip side to that, Dallas, before you say anything, some people were like, interpret it as, how long have I been here? And you're at like, I've owned the team for 20 years and you're asking me if this is a priority. Like I could have sold, like some people took it as that. I didn't. I took it as like, so he, like behind the scenes, for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, I hosted FanFest. This was the 2023 FanFest. And it was supposed to be me and TC interviewing Alex Cora, Chaim Bloom, and Sam Kennedy. And I got to the arena. It was in front of like a crowd of like fucking 5,000 people. And 30 minutes before we went on, someone came up to me backstage and they were like, hey, you know, John Henry's doing this too, right? And John Henry has not, you ask Chris Cotillo, like he can tell you how many days, hours, minutes, seconds since the last time that he publicly spoken to the media. He doesn't do it. So they were like, hey, John Henry's doing this. Did you know that? And I was like, no. I was like, he hasn't spoken to the media in years. And then they were like, yeah, so the rule is, nothing's off the table, except like personal life, like keep it to baseball, but like nothing personal. And I was like, why the fuck would I ask him anything personal? I was like, sure. Like I'll keep it to baseball. Like I was like, I can ask anything baseball at all. Anything baseball at all. Okay. So I go up there and I was like, you know, I was trying to like set the stage around the question. I was like, there's obviously a portfolio now. Like you have the Pittsburgh Penguins, you have Liverpool. Like you when you bought the Red Sox, it was just the Red Sox. Now there's a lot of stuff here. There's Roush Fenway Racing. There's a lot of different things. And then that was kind of like the preliminary of like getting involved in PGA. So like, you know, Dallas, like, you have a favorite kid. You know, once you have like 3 kids, 4 kids, 5 kids, like there's one kid that annoys you more than the others. And it's you know, I feel like you've won World Series here. By that point, he had 4. And I think it was a fair question. Are the Red Sox still a priority to you? And I think the follow-up would have been more insulting to that, or insulting to him, if I had said what I wanted to say, which was, are the Red Sox still a priority to you? Because it doesn't feel like it. As a Red Sox fan, you know, I've been right here at the forefront of all this since the day you walked in the door. Like, they bought the team in 2002. And I have seen every game, been right here paying attention as closely as anyone for the entire time that you've owned this team. And it doesn't feel like the Red Sox are a priority to you. In fairness, I think that there's been like blips of I still care. Like, I think the fact that he took a plane and flew to Kansas City to confront Rafael Devers last year, like man-to-man, face-to-face, that shows some I give a shit still. But at the same time, he gave him $313.5 million. So it's like, if I'm your boss, I'm paying you a fuck ton of money. We're asking you to play first base and you're being insubordinate. And are you going to say, like, you could say no to Cora, you could say no to Breslow. Are you going to say no to me, the guy that's signing your checks? And it sounds like in that private meeting that no one has reported anything on, because there was only, you know, a handful of people in the room, that he said, yeah, go fuck yourself. And then that led to the Devers trade. So yeah, to your point, Dallas, continue, but just some context in terms of like when the question was asked and I guess like how things have unfolded since.
Yeah. And that's where it, like, for me, it was like time's up. Like I'm not answering this. Like I'm going to do what I want to do. And it's not, I think you're probably in the middle of that transition from going to being as competitive as you think you want to be to maybe realizing, you know what? Because look, when you're an owner, you're in the room with Rob Manfred and you understand the discussions about playoff expansion and blah, 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 right? Like, you have an idea of where this thing is going. So when you understand that the pool is going to be dug a little deeper and a little wider, you realize I'm not going to have to behave the same way that I did in years past now, maybe. And so I don't have to go and spin that check. When he wrote that check to Devers and he got the reaction ultimately that he got from him in that meeting, that's where he decided, you know what? I think we're all done here. I think we're done with that. Spending that kind of money, having that kind of conversation, I think I might be reinvesting elsewhere.
Until they prove it, the voices should be allowed. You know, like I hate to say this, but I do believe it to a certain extent. I think the Red Sox think that their fans are stupid. They're like, we can tell them anything and we can behave however we want, and they will still show up and they will still buy tickets and they'll still support this team. And they're right. They're right until that's proven otherwise, which it hasn't been. Like, all right, dude, we can offer John Lester, the dude that came back from cancer and won 2 World Series, put his nuts on the table in those postseason runs. We can offer him really half of what he'll eventually sign for, piss him off, fuck that up, trade him, pursue him in free agency, and then not come up with the player in free agency. All right, that's where it starts. Then the Mookie Betts trade. Like, hey, statistically speaking, we're talking about a player that if we were able to get this contract extension done, will probably retire as number 2 to Ted Williams in terms of like statistics. Like, Ted Williams will statistically be the greatest Red Sox player ever, but Mookie Betts will be right there at number 2. Trade that guy because he costs too much money and he's asking for too much money. There's no way we can compromise. And by the way, if you recall, the Red Sox offered, I think, $300. Mookie countered at $420. He signed with the Dodgers for $365. Is that not fucking negotiating 101? We go low, you go high, we meet in the middle. They just went low, he went high, and they said, fuck yourself, you're a Dodger. There was no meet in the middle. Like, how do you not meet in the middle there? So then you trade Mookie Betts. Then the Xander Bogaerts situation, like, I don't want to give them a pass on that because you could look at that and say, well, the San Diego Padres doubled the best offer that he had. They just like AJ Preller like crashed through the wall like the fucking Kool-Aid man and gave him an offer that after Anthony Rendon's done, that'll be the worst contract in baseball. And I don't think it's particularly close. Love Xander, but like even he would be like, yeah, that was way too much money for me. But they had so many opportunities to get that done before he got to free agency. Like Xander was begging for the Red Sox to talk to him. Like, please give me an extension. Like, I want to get this done before the season starts. He gave them every opportunity. He wasn't the Boris guy that was like, extension, not hometown discount. Get the fuck out of here. Like, he was both. He would have been like, yeah, hometown discount. Great. And he had already taken a hometown discount as an extension to stay. So they fucked that up. It's just been at every turn. And then the Devers stuff, completely avoidable, self-inflicted, and completely mismanaged. And then you do all that to accommodate Alex Bregman, who ultimately became a 1-year pillow contract guy as a part of your organization. And they can't get out of their own way. I think it's bad look after bad look after bad look. And I go back to the idea of, 2018, I got to talk so much shit on behalf of the Boston Red Sox. Like, people in the organization would reach out and be like, dude, you're saying everything we wish we could say out loud. Like, keep it up. And now, because I have nothing but good relationships with the people that are involved in all this stuff with the Red Sox, but I am a Red Sox fan. Like, this is my life. This is everything. Like, I talked about it on Section 10. It was my final thought last week. New Year's Day marked 20 years that I've been doing this. 20 years. And it's been my whole life. It's been my whole adult life. I've been doing this for more than half of my time on Earth. It's what means the most to me outside of my family. And you think that I want to go on MLB Network and shred the Red Sox? No. But if I don't do that, then the fans, my people, they look at me and they say, you're a fraud. How are you supposed to be this leader of our fan base if you don't echo the same sentiments as all of us? And it's like, I do. I do. I don't like, yes, I value the relationships that I have with people within the organization, but at the end of the day, I don't agree with, support, sign off on the way that this organization has behaved since the Mookie Betts trade. I want change. I want change more than anybody else. I've said it before. I'll say it again. You cannot exceed the passion that I have for this team. You can match me. I don't know that many people out there can even do that, but you cannot exceed it. I care more than anyone else on planet Earth. So no, I'm not looking to carry water for ownership or John Henry. Well, he signs your checks. NESN is less than 2% of my annual income. It is a freelance side job that I do because it's fun and I love it. And I love learning from the people at NESN that I get to work with, like TC and Loomer, like all those guys over there. Like, that's why I do it. John Henry has no control over what I say. Never has, never will. And if it ever came down to it, if I ever got spoken to by, ownership being like, hey, we signed your checks, then I'd be like, don't sign my checks anymore. I'm good. I'm out. Like, I do just fine without this gig, that I won't have like my voice taken away from me. And I need people to know that. So at the end of the day, I think it sucks that Bregman is a Cub. But to kick it back to an earlier point, we can scream into the void as fans as much as we want to. The Red Sox only care about fan feedback to a certain extent. You can get mad, you can tweet, you can get angry, you can post on this message board, but if you're still buying tickets and showing up, then they don't care. They see the revenue, and the revenue's great, and the ratings are great. Like, what's there to possibly change? And people will look at me and say, well, why don't you fucking boycott? Well, it's because my job and I have a family to provide for. And like, well, you're still going to be there on opening day. Yes, it's my job. Like, this is what I get paid to do. I get paid to watch. I get paid to talk about it. And even if it wasn't my job, I would still watch because this is all I got. Like, this is all I know. This is all I have. So yeah, I think unfortunately, this is just how it's going to be. And maybe they'll shut me up tomorrow and it'll be breaking news. Red Sox signed Bo Bichette, 8 years, $200 million. Who fucking knows? I don't know. But I think you would be naive to think that that's going to be the case. You would be naive to think that they're going to just flip on a dime and be like, this is going to change and it's going to change now. Like, what makes you think that?
Well, haven't we heard rumblings that internally that Bo Bichette at times has been more of the favorite or more of the player that they were?
Cop-out. It's easy to say that now that Bregman's off the table to be like, well,
sure,
we actually preferred Bo Bichette. You're out of your fucking mind if you think that there's this chance that the Red Sox will outbid the Yankees and the Phillies. Like, Bregman's market was kind of like playing on beginner. Like, you should be able to fucking outbid the Cubs. Like, the Ricketts like, that's like their most lucrative contract they've ever given out. And like, that would have been like all right, yeah, cool, we got Bregman, but what else? With the Cubs, it's like, holy shit, we spent all this money. Like, you should have been able to outspend the Cubs for Bregman. Now, the Bichette market, you're going to outspend the Yankees and Dave Dombrowski and the Phillies? Good luck with that. You're not doing that. And
I mean, for the Red Sox too, think about what's happening. You're losing a third baseman. You're losing a middle of the order bat. In Bo, you get that bat to an extent, you get that bat back. But what about the defensive side of this coin? And what does that create? Right? I mean, who's penciled in over at third right now? Meyer?
Yep.
And so who goes to second? Bo?
Romy? Well, yeah, Bo, if you bring him in. Yeah, sure.
So what your fallback plan or your contingency is losing a third baseman and giving somebody who clearly is going to need growth, giving them the job over there, and you're plugging in a shortstop who is defensively not a shortstop, and you're putting him at second base. Not to say that can't work out, because we have seen it work out before. I'd like to believe that Bo can make the adjustment, and that might take a lot off his plate, defensive demand-wise. But that's the contingency plan?
Yep. It is. And to
disingenuous.
The point, disingenuous is the word. Yes.
And to the point, so you go and get Kyle Tucker. Say it's not Bo and it's Kyle Tucker. Is that what you needed?
So Coley's idea, which does make sense, but it's easier said than done, especially now that we're in mid-January, is he said, well, what if, you have 4 outfielders, you have 4 everyday outfielders, but if you sign Kyle Tucker, what if you traded 2 of them to replenish the farm system, since that's kind of the only thing that they've done? They haven't spent a single dollar in free agency. Not $1. So you've added, but you've done that via your farm system. And I kind of always envisioned, the Red Sox having this number 1 farm system. And it's like, man, what is that going to fetch someday? What young, cost-controlled stud is going to come back this way because of all the prospect capital that the Red Sox have built up? And what have they fucking used it on? 34-year-old Wilson Contreras and 36-year-old Sonny Gray on basically 1-year deals. Like, what new shiny toy do we have outside of Roman Anthony, which, again, hard to fucking complain there. Like, I think he's an absolute stud. Jayhay did the digging for me the other day. If you extrapolate his season over 162 last year as a 21-year-old, he's a 7-win player. So yeah, the ceiling is very high. So you did get a new shiny toy, but I'm talking about, when you're the Boston Red Sox, a lot of your big league positions are plugged. Like, you've got guys. So when you accrue all these prospects and you have an organization that is great, not at, developing pitching, but great at developing position players, now you're looking at it being like, man, what what are we trading? Like, what stud starting pitcher are we trading for? And it's like, well, what about Garrett Crochet? Great. But you still had plenty of bullets left in your system to make a trade for something larger. That's why after Garrett Crochet, you were in the mix on Joe Ryan. And there are other Joe Ryan types out there that you could get in them. Like Freddie Peralta is still out there, but they instead took out like pieces they traded for Band-Aids. They used their prospect capital to trade for 1 year Band-Aids. And I don't think that that's great business.
Is it fair to go ahead, Jay? You got something?
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, is it even worthwhile mentioning the Red Sox trying to bring in arms? I mean, understanding that you need help offensively at this point. Like that's
some of the plans is like, what if they just sign Ranger Suarez now? They just beef up the rotation even more.
So, and what do I always talk about? Runs. Like, you run prevention, run production. And right now, what would you say that the Red Sox are in need of? If the season started today, you feel confident enough in their run prevention department. Don't feel so confident in their run production department. And I don't know that the run prevention department is strong enough to carry enough of the load based on what the run production department is capable of or might not be capable of.
Here's a question based off of your question. Where's Rafaela playing? Because if you don't have Bo, then I know Loomer was talking about moving Rafaela to second base.
No.
Because you still have Jarren Duran. You've got Duran in center. You've got Roman in left. You've got Willier in right. And now you're moving the best defensive player at any position to second base from center field.
I'm going to tell you, thank you, okay? And with all due respect to Jarren Duran, you could put 2 Jarren Durans out there in center field, and you guys, sorry, Rafaela, give me him. If Rafaela, I mean, dude, I don't know what his flexibility is in any other place in the infield, whether it's shortstop. I mean, didn't he come up as a shortstop?
Second baseman.
Or he came up as a second baseman?
Yeah.
There's a reason that you get moved off of the middle infield. There are reasons that happens. And because of what he has already shown that he's capable of out in the outfield, that's a horse you got to let run. I don't need to put him in a pin. I need that horse to be exactly. He has to be there. That's where that dude has to be, in that ballpark. 81 games in that ballpark. I need him there. He's got to cover no man's land out there in center, right center. He's got to be able to do that. He needs to get more adept at learning how to back up and play the monster. And with his athleticism, that's where his viability is. That's where he can make the impact, right? Because, I mean, I don't want net negative as far as a run production member goes.
You're hoping for league average at best. Like, I think that's best case scenario.
So best case scenario is average. Best case scenario is average. So then it goes without saying his most important role that he could possibly play is by making the other 2 defenders on either side of him that much better because of what he brings to the table in center field.
Correct.
So having a conversation about him going to second base, and I appreciate Loomer's perspective because he's just trying to put pieces together. He's trying to make the puzzle work, and I respect that. I love that. But like you're trying to jam a centerpiece into a corner. You're trying to jam a centerpiece into the border, and that piece don't fit.
It sure doesn't, and I think it's more. I mean, we could talk about Red Sox problems all day because what about fucking Masataka Yoshida? Like if he could just stand out there at second base. I mean, he's 5'8". If he could just fucking stand out there and be even like -3 defensive runs saved at second base, it would solve so much of the Red Sox problems. But he can't even do that. So you've got a DH who doesn't really have any pop. He doesn't strike out, contact hitter, but it's a lot of weak contact. Like there's not a lot of power there. At his best, he could be like a 120 OPS plus. But it's not DH material, and now it's like, okay, so you have 4 everyday outfielders. You're gonna have to mix some of those guys in through the DH spot. You bring in Wilson Contreras to play first base, so now Tristan Casas is gonna be stuck in Worcester. But what if he goes down there and he's got like a fucking 1200 OPS? Now what do you do? So there's so many problems with the way this roster is constructed, and I think the Red Sox went into this winter thinking like, we got Bregman in the bag. Teams are going to be begging for Jarren Duran. Like, they're going to give us all their frontline starting pitching for Jarren Duran, which, like, I don't even know that I like blame them for that either. Like, AJ Preller was willing to like suck fucking Craig Breslow's toes for Jarren Duran at the trade deadline, and they held on to him because I think the team would have probably looked at that as like a punt move. So it's like, all right, like if there's this high demand for him at the trade deadline, then we're going to be able to move him no problem in the winter. And the asking price on the Red Sox side was too high. They have not done anything to alleviate themselves from their self-inflicted issues.
And it feels like that they're, and this is just my opinion from an outside perspective looking in, they're not just a Bo Bichette signing or a Kyle Tucker signing away from making this look like they had a plan B without Bregman in place. There will need to be multiple moves after this.
I don't understand this idea that they're going to turn around and sign Bo Bichette.
Neither do I, Jay. You can't let Bregman walk and think that there's another better idea.
Well, okay, so I get that Bo Bichette is younger and that Kyle Tucker is better than Bregman in both cases, but like you valued, or you had a value on Bregman internally. I just don't buy this idea that they're going to spend definitely more money on Tucker. Like the Ranger Suarez thing is one thing. If his market is at a certain point in January where it's like, we can get Ranger Suarez on a 2+1 or a 3-year deal or something like that, where it is demonstrably less money and risk than Bregman's deal. But yeah, that to me sounds like complete wish casting by the people that are saying Bregman and Tucker and things like that, respectfully, because I know it's some of our friends that are saying this, but or hoping for it, which is totally reasonable. But I think that the Red Sox have telegraphed the deals that they're interested in making, which is where they have the vast majority of the leverage, can get players who are not in free agency on team-friendly long-term deals, which is the case for both Crochet and Anthony now at this point, along with other lesser players like Rafaela. And this idea that they're going to pivot out of nowhere and sign Bo Bichette for $200 million just feels very unlikely to me. And I do wonder when that lack of shiny new toys, if that ever does erode the fan base stuff and the attendance and all that sort of stuff that you guys were talking about earlier. I don't want to pivot if we still got stuff, but can we talk about the Cubs side of this for a second too? Please. Because I think it's uniquely interesting that it's the Cubs signing Bregman for a couple of reasons. One of which, to tie into why a lot of what we were talking about with the Red Sox, is that I think Cubs fans have had, and we have had, conversations that were not totally dissimilar to what we just said about the Red Sox about the Cubs in recent podcast history. Like, there has been a lot of frustration with Ricketts post-World Series about the level of investment that he is making in the team specifically. And I think it is very noteworthy that the Cubs have essentially gone all in, close to all in, are very heavily leveraged towards winning baseball games this season in an admirable, I think, largely sort of way. We talked about the Edward Cabrera trade. This signing obviously is a massive financial commitment, a much larger offer than it seems like they made Alex Bregman last offseason when they were on the fringes of that conversation. And with the guys that they have that are pending free agents or will be free agents, Horner, Happ, and Suzuki being the main three of those guys, like, this is a window where this is the apex version of the roster potentially right now, and adding a Bregman to this is a 3, 4, 5 win upgrade, depending on exactly how optimistic you are about Bregman and pessimistic you are about Matt Shaw and what he was providing in the wake of their total disaster at third base through, kind of like pre-Shaw's reemergence. But it's an incredible statement, I think, from the Cubs side to take advantage of a window that they feel is open, and that I agree. Looking at their roster, I feel like this is it's a dynamic roster with real depth to it, to echo the things that we talked about when Cabrera trade happened.
The depth and the flexibility, that's something that you have to love, because now there's conversations about, well, are we moving Shaw? Is Nico Hoerner somebody that we want to move? And
how is he not on the move? Nico Hoerner.
Who, Nico?
Yeah, he's got 1 year left.
Yeah. I get it. I think like that's, are you in a position though to make a commitment to Nico? And with that signal, what we're talking about right here, right now, which is a level of commitment that they're willing to make, because if you're going to bring a guy like Bregman in and you have other pieces around him, then why wouldn't Nico Hoerner be a part of that equation? It's a tough sell job to the fans, in my opinion, to bring a Bregman type in, know what you have in Nico, and say, yeah, but you know what, we're gonna look elsewhere. And I don't know what the middle infield market next year looks like off the top of my head. I'd have to take a look at that, but I would got to believe that Nico is top tier.
It's interesting that we get to the Nico part so fast, because I can't help but think about the Red Sox stuff. And when Jared was outlining all the transactions, I think intellectually you can defend a lot of what the Red Sox have done individually. I think where I get hung up is part of the intellectual exercise is that they're saying, and I think this was particularly true with Devers, is it's like, okay, I can understand maybe not wanting to have 250 or whatever was remaining on the Devers contract at the time of the deal tied to this limited player, so to speak. I understand that, whether the clubhouse stuff was true or not, but it's always with the assumption that it's going to be reinvested in something that is more their flavor. And it's like, oh, we didn't want to spend $275 million on Devers, but we're fine putting that towards this Fernando Tatis that we've just gone ahead and traded for. You know what I mean? Or something like that. But that move never comes. And so when you bring up Hoerner, yes, you would love to see them sign Nico Hoerner. I also intellectually understand the idea that he's not ultra young. He is certainly not a nothing bat, and was at or near the batting lead, and certainly the runners in scoring position lead for much of the season. He is a defense first player. That is what makes him a great player. Is his elite level defense. And if you think with 1 year on his deal that shifting Matt Shaw to second base and trading Hoerner for something that will help you win this season is your best path, I'm okay with that too. But that's because the Cubs have gone out and made the Alex Bregman payment, right? They paid for Alex Bregman, so that there's some goodwill in this roster shifting that goes around, and it's not just about getting off of Hoerner, who's about to be a free agent, before you have to pay him. I don't know. That's kind of how I see it. I think the Cubs offseason has completely changed the tenor of kind of the tone of the conversation with them and how the front office behave. Because I believe what I've read is they're right up against the luxury tax now. This is real actual spending. This is a real level of investment, and it's not a perfect roster, but I absolutely think it's one that can compete for the World Series. And I applaud them for going for it. Because, I think, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, again, with Nico, I feel like his skill set and what he brings to the table, and the way that this specific skill set is starting to be valued again, I think this is a player that you got to keep, man. If you're the Cubs, I really do. I think this is a player, and based on what you have around him in this lineup or what he represents, it's not like he's hitting third for you. But how do you not value the defense that he brings to the table, the bat to ball skill?
I think they do.
So then Matt Shaw's the odd man out.
Yes,
possibly.
Matt Shaw,
possibly.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what do? They and this is what's been bannered about, right? Is they turn him into the super utility guy, move him around. And if they're able to inflate the value, or if Matt Shaw is able to inflate the value, that's the guy that moves.
Yeah. Yeah, I think either is on the table. I'm sure they're a little risk averse as it relates to trading both Shaw and Cam Smith last year in terms of, kind of some of that youthful cost controlled depth. But I do agree that either would or should be on the table. I just, this roster is like, because the other thing that we haven't talked about, and I do think is worth mentioning, is there is real downside to the Alex Bregman deal for the team side. Like, this is not a deal that is without risk for their end. This is like, there are parts of Alex Bregman's game that potentially won't age all that well. And once they don't age well, what kind of player are you left with at $30 million a pop? I don't know. But I think in the present day, I ultimately think that downside risk is worth it because it's a broad base of skills that I just really love how it fits into this lineup. The other interesting X factor is that Bregman has largely played in home ballparks that were conducive to his batted ball profile and approach, both in Fenway and Minute Maid or whatever.
Wrigley's an animal.
Yeah, Wrigley's a different animal, and I personally think that great players are more likely to adjust than to flail in these sorts of scenarios. But it's also, he's pretty deep into his career. He's kind of approached his swing and swing path and lift and all that sort of stuff in a certain way. And I saw somebody note, I think it was Fangraphs note that like a lot of his swing is already optimized in the way that you would adjust a swing to compensate for the loss of that time takes on you as a baseball player, like the loss of bat speed, the loss of athleticism overall, twitch, whatever. He's already sort of done that as the base part of his game. So like what the years 4 and 5 look on this deal as his already not elite bat speed declines, that sort of stuff could be kind of interesting. But present day,
that's where we start.
Present day,
that's where we start talking about
Cub. Yeah,
that's where we start to talk about exit velocity. How hard are we hitting the ball consistently? You're hitting the ball in the air. Because what I see, like with the wind blowing in from Wrigley, the average over is down to like 7.5 runs between two teams, and with the wind blowing out, it's north of 12.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So on any given day, you could be a bopper or you could be a Judy based on where you're at in terms of hard hit rate and fly ball rate. Like on any given day, who you are could completely change. If you're not somebody who's, 22, 25, 27, whatever it is, just still possessing monster power that you can hit through the teeth of the wind, that's not who he is anymore.
I think it's a good idea if you're the Cubs to keep Nico Hoerner and explore Matt Shaw's trade market. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe like the teams that miss out on Bo will be like, all right, yeah, sure. Like we can use an infielder that can move around.
Shaw doesn't even hit arbitration until 28?
He's got control.
Yeah. You may very well be able to get more back. I don't know. I'll defer on this, but like I think you could probably get more or as much back for Matt Shaw as you could Nico Hoerner, given this contract status disparity. Matt Shaw was a top 100 prospect as recently as last season at this time. So, and I don't think his rookie season was like disqualifying from continuing to view him in a positive light on the field.
No.
Yeah.
Well, wow. What a great opening segment.
Hang with him.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Delete Me.
No, dude, we want to stick around.
Hang around.
It's a perfect sponsor for me right now. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone feel vulnerable. It's easier than ever to find personal information about people online. Having your address, phone number, and family members' names hanging out on the internet can have actual consequences in the real world and make everyone more vulnerable. More and more online partisans and nefarious actors will find this data and use it to target political rivals, civil servants, and even outspoken citizens posting their opinions online. With Delete Me, you can protect your personal privacy or the privacy of your business from doxing attacks before sensitive information can be exploited. The New York Times Wirecutter is named Delete Me their top pick for data removal services. And as someone who is pretty often targeted by angry people on the internet, it's important to me to have my personal data protected. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners, you can get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/BID and use the promo code BID at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/BID and enter the promo code BID at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/BID, promo code BID. Okay. Was there anything else super pressing? The Yankees and Bellinger, that seems to be quite interesting in terms of the ask, the Yankees' unwillingness to go there, and then kind of like, all right, well, if that's your price and you're sticking to it, maybe we're all set here. So the Yankees pivot plan, and also like, what's Cody Bellinger? I feel like the Bellinger Yankee marriage is just kind of inevitable. I feel like they need each other, because where does Bellinger go? Like, it's almost like everyone's waiting on Kyle Tucker. If Kyle Tucker signs with the Jays, then it's like, all right, well, Bellinger's market's there. So it's like, all right, I guess I can sign with the Mets if the Yankees don't want me anymore. Like, is that how this unfolds?
Yeah, I think I agree that this relationship, I think they're going to just back into each other, honestly.
It actually, with how public the back and forth that Jared outlined has been, with reporters getting these leaks and this, it actually makes it feel more inevitable, doesn't it? That they're just going to sign with each other, and that it's just, we're playing out the string of the negotiation in public.
Publicly.
Yeah. Yeah, it does feel like a good roster fit for the Yankees. It feels like the most money that he's going to get from any individual location. And like, while I do blanch at, some of these reports, like I obviously think the Bellinger wants $300 million stuff is complete nonsense, and if not a fake report, then just not worth paying attention to. But like this stuff that, the Yankees are at 150 to 155 or whatever it is, and that Bellinger's camp is seeking a 7-year deal. I don't want really any part of the Cody Bellinger business at $30 million a year for 5 years. But if I'm his camp and I've seen what other people have signed for, including what Alex Bregman just got, it doesn't make it feel quite as ridiculous of an ask as I thought it was. Like, I personally,
what, the $300 million?
No. The 7-year deal at similar terms to what he's been offered. Because listen, I don't want to do that. And I would rather have Alex Bregman at 5 and 175 than Bellinger at 7 and 200 or whatever.
210.
Yeah, 7 210. Yeah. But if I'm Bellinger or I'm Bellinger's agent, Cody Bellinger is, what we do know, he is definitely younger than Alex Bregman, right? In a year, in an age stretch that really fucking matters for dollars and cents here, and can at least credibly argue that over 2025, over the last 3 seasons, over the last whatever, that he's basically been the equivalent player to Alex Bregman on the whole. So do I want to be in that business? No, but that being his ask doesn't feel as crazy to me in light of some of the other stuff that we've seen.
The one thing that I wonder about is there were questions about whether or not Cody Bellinger's game was going to be able to return to any sort of normalcy, I guess I'll say, based on what we saw early and then what we saw in those 2 years. What was that, 21, 22, where it was just brutal. Not good. It was not good. And the argument and the deal with the opt-outs and it was all about, well, let's see what I can do. I've made changes. I'm turning myself back into, or I'm evolving as a player. And are we at a point now where we're going to have to factor in what the evolution on the other side of the evolution is going to look like? So if you're willing to commit to those 7 years, how long can Cody Bellinger sustain what he has shown over these last 3 years? Because it has now been sort of a 3-year trial run, if you will, on the evolution of who Cody Bellinger is these days. And if you like what you've seen and you think that that's going to maintain for the next 3 to 5, then I think you're okay with that 5-year deal. Beyond a 5-year deal, now you're really thinking about what those age, 36, 37 seasons are starting to look like.
But that's the back end of the Bregman deal now too. So that's my point, is that I understand Bellinger's side being like, I'm 2 years, a year and a half younger than this guy who got 5 years at 30 million plus a pop. Like, why am I not getting 6 or 7 years? Why is my market 5 years?
I bring that evolution up because of the point you made about Alex Bregman making changes to his game that, I don't want to call it the last stop you make before things just become
he's a very unique player in how Yeah.
But like for Bellinger again, and the batted ball profile, like, is there a better place for him to play other than Yankee Stadium?
I can't think of one.
Come to Sacramento.
But that's why I said they need each other, right?
Yeah, I agree.
If you're the Yankees, you haven't had the greatest offseason in the world. Like what moves have they made that have made you feel like last offseason, there's a bidding war for Max Fried, and they were the team that was like, you know what? If it takes the extra year to get you here, then let's do it. And they did it. They put their nuts on the table. They got the player, and Max Fried was excellent for the Yankees in 2025. Outside of this, I mean, they're in a bidding war against no one for a player that they already had. Like, that's not a place you want to be in, where you're like, wait, who exactly are we bidding against for Cody Bellinger? Sure, like, I'm not saying the Yankees are the only team that would like to have him or that have picked up the phone, but in terms of like serious offer, nuts on the table, we want you, here's an offer that reflects that. Is there another team that's doing that right now?
No, and that could very well be the reflection of why the leaks occur, right? Is, look, somebody tell him that he needs us. We know we need him. We need to stop dicking around here, and this is where we're at, all right? So without us having to say that to him publicly in a way or privately in a way that could turn him off, like, can somebody else tell him that we're the best place for him to be? And though he might, if it's just about the dollar side of things, then okay. Go test the waters. Go see if you can reel in a bigger fish. But if you can't, and we don't think you can, based on how things have gone here, because otherwise Scott Boras would be coming back and saying, hey, we've got this on the table. We've got that on the table. And if that conversation has occurred and the Yankees have said, well, you know what? Like, if that's where you're going to go, if that's the route that you want to go, and that's the deal that's best for you and him, like, make that deal. We are comfortable now telling you, make that deal, because we will pivot. We will do something else. But this is where we're at with bringing Cody back. We like the player. We think he's going to age well here in our ballpark. This is what we're willing to give him because of that. If you see a better fit elsewhere and there's more dollars for you elsewhere, then go get that.
I don't know if there will end up being more dollars elsewhere, but one of the rosters where he does make sense on paper is the Mets, I feel like, and that would be kind of funny if things deteriorated to a point with the Yankees where, maybe he's not getting more money from the Mets, but he is signing with them. Yeah, because their outfield first base situation is not exactly neat and tidy themselves. So I haven't seen any direct reporting linking those two, at least not recently, but that would be a funny outcome.
Yeah. It's bad. I think they'll eventually end up with each other. Maybe not. Yeah. I don't know. Who fucking knows? Could be a situation where, you don't see him, because I know that we've heard this with Kyle Tucker about potentially if it doesn't work out long term with Toronto, maybe a short term high AAV situation with maybe a team like the Dodgers or something like that. Do you see that for Cody? Do you think he'll be like, why the fuck? Because all the points are valid. If Bregman gets 5, why am I not getting 7? If we're paying to the same age seasons, but if he doesn't get his 7, do you see him taking like a 3-year high AAV situation with like the Mets or whoever?
At that point in time, I think if he's going to take a short-term high AAV, it's going to be with a team he feels is competitive and is going to and I'm not saying that Cody Bellinger can't still be a difference maker, but I don't think it would be to a team where their ability rests on his shoulders to get to the postseason and to be competitive in the postseason. Because the Dodgers, and this is what's nice about being the Dodgers, is the Dodgers could just call him and be like, hey man, not sure how things are working out. We'll give you a few bucks for a couple years. We'll figure out an option or something for the third if you want, but we know that you've been into kind of proving who you are as a player, and we're not looking for you to prove anything to us. We've got an idea of who you are. We're comfortable with that. This is how we'd like to use you. What do you say?
We're just not that far removed from the conversation of like, man, what happened to Cody Bellinger? And even in his like redemption season with the Cubs, it was like, yeah, but all the under the hood stuff suggests like, yeah, the season wasn't as great as it looks. Like that wasn't that long ago either. So I get if teams are reluctant to go 7, but if you're the Yankees, we can just circle back to the conversation that we had about ballpark factor. Yeah, I'm a little bit more comfortable extending myself for Cody Bellinger if he's going to play half his season at Yankee Stadium. Sure. But if you're another team where his swing doesn't exactly favor as much in your home ballpark, then yeah, I'm not interested. I'm looking at the larger, more recent sample and saying I'm good.
Yeah, which is why, not to go back and belabor the point here, but for Bregman, like that's a tough, like, hey man, on any given day with a stiff wind, you go from being able to take advantage of the massive green wall in left field to just like popping out to short.
Fly out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But at that point, Dallas, who cares? You've secured your home.
That's it.
Like you're not vying for the big deal anymore. It's like, all right, it's a fucking pop-up instead of a wall ball double. But my money's guaranteed and I've got a no trade clause and this is where I'm going to be. So
direct deposit still hits.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's a shitty way of looking at it, but yeah, like you've committed to me and I'm here now and it is what it is. Well, we're about a month away from pitchers and catchers reporting. So that window is closing for teams to be able to sign players if they want them there on the first day of big league workouts. So yeah. And the last thing before we get to the postponed MVP Cy Young revisit, which will be the 1960 Cy Young Award with Justin Havens. I did want to at least mention the Max Kepler 80-game suspensions for PEDs, which sucks because he's a free agent. Yeah. I can't say I feel bad for anyone that pops, but not the best timing to pop when you're not signed to it. Like any team now is just going to be like, yeah, no, I'm good. Like that might be the end of his career almost.
Sure. Yeah. And look, I think there were plenty of jokes made about it, but if that's the kind of season that gets produced, regardless of when you were on the sauce, because what have I always said about it? There's business decisions that you have to make. Am I good enough? Am I good enough without it that I could get on it, that teams would still want my services after the fact and take the chance of me being anywhere near what I was before or anywhere close to what I was when I was on it to bring me back in? Am I good? And the answer, I believe, is no. No, nobody's lining up for a sub 220, 300 OBP. We're talking about a sub 700 OPS from a position where you're going to need power, you're going to need pop. No, nobody's signing up for that.
Yeah, I mean, and even in this situation, like there's guys that get popped and they're, it's like, well, let's wait to see what the substance is. And then you see it, it's like, well, all right, like that's sure it's a banned substance, but it's not like egregiously that he was trying to gain an advantage. This was an anabolic steroid. Like it's just like it's a petrinbolone, which is it's an anabolic steroid. It's basically Tren. Like he was taking Tren.
Yeah, I was going to say it's cousin of Tren.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if dudes that take Tren, those are like the gorilla looking dudes. Like they've got the big backs, they've got the 3D shoulders, their quads, you can see their fucking heartbeat in their quads. Like those are the dudes that are on Tren. I know dudes that take Tren, and that's such a steroid that's like your personality changes. Like you're angry all the time, you have a short temper, like all the traditional side effects that people attribute to steroids when there's a million different kinds of steroids, you can attribute that to Tren. You get the crazy back knee with it, and you're horny as fuck. Like it's a trip. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend Tren unless you're ready to go on a ride, pal.
Yeah, so no on the trend.
Yeah,
out on the trend.
Yeah, I'd say hard pass.
I didn't even see a fake statement from him either. Like that's how you really know that this is just like this is the real guilty stuff.
Yeah, that's one of these right here. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, his agency couldn't be reached for comment. I'm sure they couldn't. Yes, I too would be ignoring calls that day. Yeah, no, we're at 800. We're at almost 900 plate appearances of 687 OPS baseball since the start of 2024. He doesn't do anything. What
sucks is he is, I mean, quite literally days away from 10 years of service time.
Oh, no shit. That's probably Well, I'm not gonna
days, boys, days.
I still think that there's a chance that someone signs him and he can at least check that box to get his pension. But
I mean, that's really it would almost be a favor of sorts.
Yeah. Like the
you'd
Twins.
be doing it for international baseball growth in Germany, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there there's nothing keeping him out of playing in the WBC, is there? Like, are you allowed to play in the WBC if you've been popped?
I thought you were not
unrelated,
allowed.
Right?
I thought you were not allowed. Hold on.
Like if if you have incurred a suspension and you're not allowed to play Major League Baseball because of this, does that allow you still to perform on the international stage?
Don't know.
I don't know yet.
Well, something that we do need to discuss. I know we're going to get to the Cy Young. Speaking of Cy Young, Tarek Skubal
God.
The Detroit Tigers have exchanged arbitration figures, and it is going to be a very interesting conversation that is had. That I would absolutely, I think my boy Jerry Blevin said, pay-per-view this. Put this on pay-per-view. Like, ask people if they are willing to pay a premium to listen to this arbitration case, and the answer is a resounding yes. A resounding yes. Right? So Skubal offers, his camp says, look, we're looking for 32 mil. 32 of them things. $32 million doll hairs, Jayhay, is what the left-hander is after. And the Tigers said, we got you at about 19. That's what nuts. We think you're worth. We got you at about 19. And that created the record chasm between the two camps, a $13 million difference between the Detroit Tigers offer and the demand of Tarek Skubal. And something that there's some caveats here to how this conversation can go and some of the leverage that the left-hander has. With his 5 years or more of service time, which he has, this enables him to not only look at whatever sort of arbitration pool of years past, but this allows him to take all contracts into consideration and compare his performance to those performances and what those contracts ended up looking like. So this isn't just an apples to apples ARB case where you can look at past records and comps and say, all right, this is kind of the pool we're swimming in. No, it is, you're in the vast ocean of compensation, if you will, if you're Tarik Skubal. And something that bodes extremely well for him is you are also allowed to factor into and take into negotiations special achievements, like winning a Cy Young, or maybe like winning 2 of them, which is something that he's done. And he's done it back to back. One of what I think 12 guys to win back-to-back Cy Youngs. One of, I think, 23 to have won multiple Cy Youngs. So that's what he's walking into arbitration with, on top of having won the Triple Crown a couple years ago. Like, that's what Tarik Skubal is bringing to the table, on top of being able to compare some of the old numbers with, David Price, who would he net 19, almost 20 mil, 19.7, from the Tigers, actually, back in 2015. So think about that. That's also what the Tigers offered David Price a decade ago for having not as good of a season as Tarik Skubal had, and without the accolades going into it.
That's why I think this is not going to be as entertaining as people think. Like, if you were to buy it on pay-per-view, like, it's a pretty open and shut case. Like, it's just Skubal's going to win this one. And I was going to ask Jayhay, I'm sure it's like out there, but no pitcher has ever gone into his final year of arbitration coming off back-to-back Cy Young awards, right? Like, it would have been like Lincecum, but
yeah, and that's part of the unprecedented achievement thing that DB was talking about earlier, that Boris is going to try and argue on behalf of, which is that he supersedes the restraints of his own class, basically, or his own salary classifications, and not only from pitchers, like, he should be compared directly to hitters as well. And in arbitration, hitter salaries have outpaced pitcher salaries for the most part. So, the Juan Soto name is the one that keeps getting brought up. Yeah, that they want to beat that. And, that Skubal is part of the executive committee for the Players Association. Like, this is Boris and Skubal seeing an opportunity to really press the issue, press the system. And what is the downside for them if they lose? It's virtually nothing in the scheme of things for Skubal, given how much he has made, how much he will make if they lose. If he would have filed at a more reasonable number or whatever, or one that who cares? Like, this is a real opportunity to, like, completely alter the arbitration system in a way that almost no one gets the opportunity to do, and do kind of like, and can argue in good faith that there's a reason for them doing it. And that's why, like, I intuitively, I want, the Skubal Boris side is not in good faith here? You don't think?
The Tigers side.
There is no way, like, Tarik Skubal and Scott Boras, even if they wanted to, couldn't walk into that room with anything other than good faith on their side based on the fucking production.
Well, that's fine. That's what, but that's what I'm saying. But, like, you could, the only distinction I was saying was that a lesser pitcher could file for what would appear as an arbitration pushing case, but have legitimately no shot to win, and it just be a headline grabbing thing. Like, there is merit to the case for why he should be the one to bust the system. Well, and that's what I meant by good faith on their side, is they're not arguing something that doesn't have a foundation to it.
Well, ultimately what you're trying to convince the arbitration panel of is that you are more valuable than the number the team has filed at, and you are closer to being valued at the number that you have filed at, right? Now, like, that's the play here, is let me explain to you why I'm worth this amount of money. You see this production here? You see the accolades that come along with this type of production? That's not reserved for people making $19 million a year. That is reserved for people making $30+ million a year. That's why we're here with this number. So based on who I am, based on what I have done, because something else, and this is what I like, because I don't know if you guys follow Skubal on social media, but he's made the rounds through the Detroit sports scene, right? He's been to Lions games, he's been to Pistons games, like he's been all over the place. He's been to Red Wing, like he's done it all. And part of that is your standing in the community as well. Like, is this an iconic player? Yep. Yes, sure is. Absolutely is. This isn't some dude who just rolled out of bed and had a really good year on his platform year and is now having this conversation. That's not what we're doing here. That is not what we're doing here. The fact that the production has been what it's been since he's entered the league and has only gotten leaps and bounds better. That's what we're paying attention to here. That's the argument here. This is a generational talent. This is the best pitcher in the game. And he became so at just the right time. That is no reason to prevent him from earning what he is worth. And that's where the Tigers, that's why I say, for my entertainment, Jared, would come from listening to how you are going to formulate an argument against who this dude is. That's where the entertainment is. Like, to hell with the results. Just give me the hour and a half worth of argument / rebuttal that the ownership group is going to have when it comes to trying to
sit there and be like, well, we just don't want to pay him that much. Like, that's all like you have in that situation. There, like, to your point, Dallas, no one has ever been in a better position. And I know like, if you're sitting at home and you've got your 9 to 5 and you're trying to get by, I know it sounds tone deaf, but be like a guy that's like, you know what? I volunteer. I'll be the guy that tries to get $32 million. Yes, I understand from like a common man perspective, that sounds ridiculous, but let's just put on our imagination caps and think about Tarik Skubal, because he is so involved on like the player side and advocating for other players that will come after him. It's not bullshit to be like, I'm doing it for you guys. This $32 million I'm pursuing. Like, I'm doing it for you. You need to understand that a dude that wins back-to-back Cy Young awards, that's going into his final year of arbitration, has never happened before. So if he sets the mark of accomplishing the game's highest achievement from a single player performance perspective as a pitcher, and that is worth $19 million, then the next guy who comes up that maybe has one Cy Young, or like, I finished 4th, like, what is that worth? Like, they're not going to get anything close to what they're worth. So he has to shoot for the moon so that the guys that come after him, like, this is the gold standard. This is the unicorn, back-to-back Cy Young awards. It's not like, we may never see a guy win back-to-back Cy Young awards. Maybe, I don't know. I can't say that because Skeens might very well do it. That go into your final year of ARB with that type of like distinction.
That's who cares. That's who this is for. That's who this is for, is Paul Skeens. We're talking about accolades. Paul Skeens, Cy Young under the belt. In his rookie season, he finished 3rd in the Cy Young, right? This guy finished in the top 20 of the MVP race in his rookie year. And that was capped off by winning Rookie of the Year. He wins the Cy Young last year. He finished in the top 10 of the MVP race last year. So when Paul Skeens is inevitably in the top or wins the Cy Young Award again next year and is in the conversation for an MVP again and then enters his first year of arbitration in 2027, that is a hell of a bar that Tarik Skubal just set for his boy. And that is why you go to bat. That's why you make those moves. That's why you make those arguments.
Yeah, that's all. Don't dispute any of that. But where I think you guys are selling short is the Tigers side of the argument. Like, we can know, like, in our hearts, that they don't want to pay him that money, and that is the main driving factor for why. But they're going to walk in there with what they perceive, and I think what will be perceived as pretty real arguments on their behalf. Are they ones that I would personally side with? No, I don't think so. But like the David Price and Jacob deGrom things, like we know that Tarik Skubal is better than David Price at the time that David Price was awarded $19 million. Like I think we can all agree on that. But what they are going to argue is that David Price was, on the whole, a more accomplished pitcher at that time. He might have only had one of the two Cy Youngs, but he had 500 more innings pitched, and he had more career wins above replacement. Now, I don't care what you think about career WAR. That's what they're going to say. That's one of the things that they're going to say, is that David Price's track record was actually more robust than Tarik Skubal's. And for deGrom, they're going to say, well, yeah, no, this is... the raise that was Jacob deGrom was awarded coming off of his record-breaking season to go from 7 to 17 or 7 and change to 17, that's a $10 million raise. Jacob deGrom's season to earn that $10 million raise was better than Tarik Skubal's season that he just had. And nobody on this panel is going to disagree with that, because that's Jacob deGrom's 2018 season where he had a 1.7 in 217 innings. So that's one of the few seasons where you could actually say better than what Skubal just did. And so they're going to argue, well, that was a $10 million raise. Why are we issuing a $22 million raise, even if you factor, that's not factoring in inflation, that's changing the structure of the system. So like, we can say, yeah, Skubal's worth $32 million a year. All these other people are making this, but that's what they're going to walk in there and say. And that panel is going to have to decide. They're going to have to make a decision. Are we going to essentially nuke the arbitration system because we find Boris and Skubal's arguments to be that persuasive? Because that's what's going to happen if they side with that side. And so I do think, I don't know which side I would bet on to it happening, but I do think the Tigers have a better chance of pulling this off than at least it sounded like you guys think they do. Maybe.
No, look, I think it's pretty abundantly clear what camp I reside in.
Yes,
and
I'm with you though. I'm with you,
but I'm not here to highlight the loop, and they're not loopholes. They're valid foundational arguments for the Detroit Tigers. I just don't want to celebrate them. I just don't want to acknowledge them.
Sure.
Hand up.
That's fine.
Straight up. I mean,
I'm just explaining to the listener, like, how this is, like, in practice going to work and how the arbitration system is going to work. Like, what arguments they're going to make against the idea of Tarik Skubal, because they can't walk in there and say, we're being cheap and we don't think we're going to enter into a long-term agreement with this guy, so we don't want to pay him $32 million in his walk year, because that's not like a persuasive precedent-setting argument. It doesn't. I hesitate to say legal, but like you need to meet like some sort of logic here. And I don't know. I think I'm with you. I would pay to watch this. I'm on that side. It's crazy to me. We've talked about this on the podcast before, but this idea that these teams are walking in there and basically telling their star players to eat shit it to their face in some cases if they choose to attend has always boggled my fucking mind, because every single person listening to this, if they were in that scenario in their jobs, would fucking lose it. If my reviews were all about them arguing against what I've done all year so that they could pay me less money, maybe they're doing that behind the scenes, but if that was to my face every time I went into arbitration, that would be an incredibly demoralizing event. Maybe motivating, but also demoralizing. Like, these teams have nickel and dimed. $13 million is one thing, precedent's one thing, but when they get in there and they nickel and dime over $1.5 million or $750K over guys that might matter down the line, has never made sense to me. I don't the business sense doesn't make sense to me.
That's what makes the Paul Skeens angle for me important, is because nobody, and I mean nobody, is pulling for the Tigers to win this more than the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Sure.
Nobody.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that just them's the facts, because they know that train rolling down the tracks right now in the form of Paul Skeens is not leaving town without a bag, and they are going to be the ones that have to hand it over. And if they, for 1 minute, are looking at the next 3 years of arbitration being, 25 plus each year and growing for Skeens? That's a real decision maker, right? Mm-hmm. Because now you're on the hook. You're going to be on the hook for $75 million, north of $75 million over the next 3 years. If Skubal lands this deal, that's exactly where Paul Skeens is going to be swimming in. That same exact pool, right? So now
that's the precedent part. Yeah.
Right. And now the Pirates have to make a decision. Well, are we just going to, not eat it, but are we going to wear the 25 plus price tag for the next 3 and then move on from Skeens? Or is it now time where he's forced our hand and Skubal winning this has forced our hand? We got to make a deal here. We got to figure out a way to make him a Pirate for life.
Well, sorry, I know we're going to move on, but the whole labor, the CBA expiring, this whole system could change too, right? So this could, in theory, it applies to Paul Skeens. Maybe it doesn't down the line, but Skubal and his team are certainly acting like the tip of the spear or whatever, as if it will matter down the line and will matter for Tarik Skubal right now.
Yep.
And Dallas not wrong. Pirates are rooting heavy for this.
It's tens of millions of dollars for them potentially.
Yeah. That I don't think people understand. They so the way that arbitration works, I don't want to talk down to our audience like they're dumb, but for anyone that doesn't know, it's okay to not understand.
No, it's
when players go through arbitration, the team will submit a figure and the player submits a figure. They can negotiate. And a lot of times they do meet in the middle so that they don't have to go to a hearing. But if you go to a hearing, the panel does not decide the Tigers submitted at 19, Skubal submitted at 32. So we will decide a number in between. No. They either pick what the player submits or what the team submits. Those are the only 2 possible outcomes. So, when Dallas is talking about the Pirates sweating this out, Skubal is setting the mark for Skeens in a few years to go into arbitration and be like, fuck it, give me 40. And the Pirates are going to be like, how's 8? Does that sound good? And then a panel will have to look at the precedent that was set by Skubal and be like, yeah, I'm more in line with what the player wants here. I feel like, based on what the market is for players, and there's really no territory for a pitcher like Skeens that's accomplishing the pinnacle of his craft immediately. And I think we can all anticipate that he will continue to do so. There's not a flash in the pan, whoa, where did that come from? No, he is a prodigy and it's come to fruition almost immediately. So I would expect that to continue. And by the time he reaches the final year of arbitration, he's going to be the guy that's setting the records with the assistance of an arbitration panel. So yeah, we'll see. Anyways.
How good can you be? MVP.
It's my pleasure to announce this year's NL Cy Young Award winner.
My Cy Young Award winner.
Well, it's very fitting that we transition right from the Pirates' concerns in the future to one of the great Pirates pitching seasons that we've ever seen. I guess we've just seen better in Paul Skeens. But nevertheless, Vern Law, the 1960 Cy Young Award winner, is a reminder for those when we first touched on this subject, when it was first selected, a reminder that there was only one Cy Young given out in 1960, and Vern Law was its winner. He received 8 of the, now, give the voters a little bit of leeway here. They were still feeling this whole Cy Young thing out, okay? But he was the winner. Only 4 people received votes. Only 14 people registered votes. Vern Law got 8 of the 14 first place votes. Warren Spahn, who you may have heard of before, received 4 to finish second in the voting. And then multiple Ernie Broglio and Lindy McDaniel, who I will admit I have very little familiarity with prior to this.
You don't know Lindy
McDaniel.
Lindy
finished 4th. Both father of Josh McDaniel, current Patriots offensive coordinator, I believe. Broglio and McDaniel were on the Cardinals. But anyway, Vern Law was the winner. He was tied for Major League Baseball in complete games with 18. Just a reminder of how different baseball was back then. He finished 6th in innings pitched, tied for 11th in ERA, and 3rd in wins. He was one of 3 20-game winners that season. In addition to Law, the aforementioned Spahn and Broglio were the other 20-plus game winners. They each won 21 games to edge Law. Law's larger career context, since I'm assuming he's a guy that people are not super familiar with, he had registered MVP votes in 1955 and 59 and would register MVP votes in this season, 1960, as well as 1965. So he had high impact seasons scattered throughout his career. This was the only year, however, that he would register any action at all for the Cy Young specifically, which is kind of interesting, the year he won it. He was a 16-year veteran. All 16 of those seasons were played with Pittsburgh. He missed 1952 and 1953 due to military service. He finished his career with 26 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference in north of 2,600 innings pitched. He would pitch 7 more seasons after this Cy Young winning campaign. He would reach 200 innings only once more, though, and this was his lone all-star selection. So in every way but wins above replacement, I guess, this was the peak of Vern Law's career. So in every way that mattered back then, the peak of Vern Law's career, again, his only Cy Young award. What's the larger league context or team context for this award? The Pirates won the World Series. So that matters, just in terms of not really specifically winning the World Series, but how good they were overall winning the pennant. It was the first time reaching the World Series at that time since 1927. So it had been 33 years. This was a largely unprecedented season for the Pirates, certainly for this generation of Pirates fans. They had finished under 500 in 10 of the previous 11 seasons. So again, a remarkable season in Pirates history, and Vern Law was, the tip of the pitching spear there. What does wins above replacement say? Which, of course, didn't exist back then, but exists now. He finished 11th among pitchers in F-WAR at 4.2 and tied for 13th among pitchers in B-WAR, also at 4.2. So there is a clear consensus as to what the value of his season was. The 2 wars actually arrive at the exact same number. B-WAR says Broglio was the best in the league, slightly ahead of Don Drysdale, and Jim Bunning, Hall of Famers. F-WAR says Bob Friend was the best, slightly ahead of, again, Bunning and Drysdale. So we arrive at a conclusion. Vern Law is not going to keep this Cy Young Award winner. He was just not the best pitcher by really any way that you can measure this, despite how successful the Pirates were in the season overall. This award statistically doesn't even come down to anybody who received a vote. So that's how raw the voting was back then. Warren Spahn, who finished second, really not in the conversation with a 3.50 ERA in fewer innings pitched than Vern Law. Broglio has B-WAR on his side, but F-WAR views his season as much less favorably. Broglio, as a side note, issued 100 walks in 226 and a third innings. He was also not exclusively a starter. He had 52 appearances overall in 1960. Only 24 of them occurred as a starter, so fewer than half. That also, that doesn't eliminate you as a candidate, but I do think is something worth noting when you're comparing him to kind of standard issue workhorses like Jim Bunning and Don Drysdale, who, again, as I said before, did not receive any votes. But they are the 2 that, in my opinion, this award came down to. Once again, wins above replacement says virtually nothing to distinguish these 2. Bunning led in F-WAR, Drysdale led in B-WAR, but their margins in each were trivial enough to be toss-ups in both. Drysdale led Bunning in innings pitched and strikeout rate. Bunning led Drysdale in ERA, as well as adjusted ERA and walk rate. So again, not much in the way separating these 2 teams or that are going to lend us to some clarity here. Drysdale's Dodgers finished 13 games behind the Pirates that year. Bunning's Tigers, obviously over in the AL, finished 71-83 in 26 games out of the AL pennant. I'm not going to change my standard all of a sudden and start holding individual pitchers accountable for playing on lackluster and, or in the case of Bunning, shitty teams. So this award goes down to Jim Bunning and Don Drysdale, and the tiebreaker that I'm using, which is admittedly not super objective, but is the one that I'm going to use, is that Don Drysdale has a Cy Young Award. He was recognized in his career as a Cy Young Award winner. He won it in 1962, so 2 seasons after the year that we're talking about. Was he better that season? It's debatable. He was better in some things. He certainly threw 50 more innings than he threw this year and won 25 games, which is a pretty sterling number. But Jim Bunning is one of the all-time greatest pitchers. I've heard he's kind of a dickhead, or was a dickhead before he died. Rest in peace, of course. But one of the greatest pitchers in baseball history to not win a Cy Young, just objectively. He had 60.3 career wins above replacement. He had 5 different seasons worth 6 or more wins above replacement, including a peak across 1965 to 66. So a little bit after 65 to 67. So a little bit after what we're talking about here, where he delivered just shy of 25 WAR over 3 seasons combined. Just a sterling number. But Jim Bunning does not have a Cy Young. He has 9 All-Star appearances. He is in the Hall of Fame, but I'm going to take Vern Law's Cy Young from the pennant and World Series winning Pirates, and I'm going to give it to I'm going to switch leagues for that matter, send it over to the AL, Jim Bunning on the team that finished 22 games under 500. So there you go. That's the 1960 Cy Young. You got some fucking beef with that, dude?
Yeah, I got some beef with your fucking Vern Burn. That is absolutely brutal.
You wanted to stick with Vern
part
Law?
of why they were in the position they were in.
Okay.
Am I wrong?
But he wasn't even, like, you can make a case that Bob Friend, who was on his team, was a better pitcher than Vern Law. Like, Bob Friend had more wins above replacement in both measurements. He had a lower ERA, and he had 4 more innings pitched. So what the fuck are we talking about? Why did Vern Law win the Cy Young over his teammate who had better stats? Why was the voting not friendly to Friend?
Because Vern Law is a quality American.
All right. Well, was Bob
How many
Friend
years
some
of
sort of piece
military
of shit?
service for Bob Friend?
I didn't Google Bob Friend. Well, he had 0. And he was playing in the same period of time. So I would maybe his lack of service for America was the separating factor.
I mean,
wow.
There's a reason we say
DB might have stumbled on it.
Thank you for your service.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for your service to Vern Law. But he can thank me for my service in trekking on down to take his Cy Young from him and give it to Jim Bunning. Thank Jim Bunning for his service. Believe he served as well. Not sure. Maybe he was just a jerk. I don't know.
It's a Vern.
I mean, like, Jim Bunning didn't even finish in the top 4.
No, neither of the people I ultimately considered for the award finished in the voting. But the voting was obviously dog shit. There were 14 voters, and they got it wrong. Like, why is Lindy McDaniel getting votes over Don Drysdale?
Because he led the league in saves.
What 27?
Yeah.
That's pathetic. Get the
but
fuck
he still
out of here
did
with
it.
this. Yeah.
I'm not advocating at all for Lindy McD, but I'm just saying, like, put some respect on his fucking name for leading the league in saves, because you've never saved a Major League Baseball game before.
No, but I have taken away plenty of fake Cy Youngs.
You ever slammed the door shut, Jayhay?
He's never done any of that.
You ever slammed the door?
What it's like? You know what it's like to get the last 3 outs in a big league ball game? Fucking inconsequential to you, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, when we played MVP baseball in college, I was routinely trusted with pitching the 9th inning and getting those final 3 outs. And nobody was ever questioning my moxie or my, what rate my blood was pumping at.
You ever serve your country proudly?
Yeah, I was going to make some sort of smart ass comment, but I don't want to come off the wrong way. No, I've obviously never served. Served the two of you every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for your service.
Me?
Yeah, you. You said you served us every day. I know what you meant, but I chose to take it a different way.
Yeah. I didn't know if we were thanking Vern Law or, we'll thank Vern Law one more time. Thank you, sir. Probably the last time you'll ever be mentioned on this podcast.
The Vern burn.
Yeah.
Tough.
All right. By the way, check out the Pat Murphy interview if you haven't already. Yeah. It's fucking awesome. A lot of great feedback. I texted him and said a lot of great feedback has come from your interview, and he said, I'm shocked anyone listens to your show. So check out Pat Murphy on our YouTube channel, on the podcast feed, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your shows. It was fucking awesome. And to piggyback off of that, while we were recording this show, I was busy working the phones. Sal Frelick on Thursday.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Sal.
Yeah, I don't want to give anything away. I'm not going to give up any spoilers here, but I taped a couple of segments for MLB Network's top 100 players right now. And I will say that I pumped Sal Frelick's tires quite a bit. Maybe we'll get into that. Maybe we'll get into that in our conversation with him on Thursday. So there's that. There's that to look forward to in the Pat Murphy interview, obviously, to look back on if you haven't yet. Justin Havens, do you have any award-winning nugs for us today?
I do. Just a few cutting room floor stuff that didn't make it into the Bregman conversation. Bregman's one of 20 third basemen in modern baseball history, so since 1900, to produce at least 43 B-WAR through his age 31 season. Of the 14 previous third basemen who are or have been eligible, 10 of them are in the Hall of Fame. If you look at the Cubs' third base ranks for last season, they ranked 27th in F-WAR, tied for 26th in weighted runs created plus, and 28th in on-base percentage. So again, I know a lot of that factors in kind of pre-Matt Shaw, but even if you factor that his performance in, a huge upgrade for the Cubs. Alex Bregman, some of it's good, some of it's bad. If you look at his OPS by month last season, it went down every single month, 985 to 857 to 848 to 735 to 640. Bregman's 536 OPS from August 23rd to the end of the season was the 8th worst in MLB over that span. He had a 933 OPS through August 22nd. Overall, in 2025, of the 215 MLB batters with at least 400 plate appearances, he had the 8th highest squared up rate, the 12th lowest chase rate, tied for the 18th lowest whiff rate, and tied for the 26th lowest strikeout rate. He had the highest WOBA in 2-strike counts for any qualified batter last year at 336, ahead of a 3-way tie between Perdomo, Soto, and Judge. And then this is less of a nug and more of just, this can be my final thought, observation. There was a lot of shit talked in the Jordan Montgomery era, I'll say, about Scott Boras losing his fastball and some of those pillow contracts that some of his people had to take. And, did the modern game pass the old horse by? And, from having interacted with Scott Boras on this podcast in a minimal way, there's nothing about the way that that man carries himself that made me think that he was doubting the process at any point along the way. But worth noting now that Bregman turned a 3-120 with opt-outs into 5-175. Pete Alonso turned 2-54 into 5-155. Blake Snell turned 2-62 into 5-182. Matt Chapman turned 3-54 into 6-151. And Cody Bellinger, as we talked about earlier, we're awaiting that result, but will very likely turn his 3-80 with opt-outs into something much more lucrative. So great time to be part of Boris Corp. And those are my final thoughts.
Dallas, any final thoughts?
Yeah, a couple. Number one, regarding Skubal and Skeens, we'll start with Skubal. Pay that man his money, and we'll go to Skeens. So you can end up paying that man his money. I am locked in on that arbitration case. I can't wait to see how that thing unfolds. And secondarily, Jared, you wore me out, rightfully so, about the about the tweet that I fired off last night. Everything stands with the tweet outside of me completely forgetting that, that Roman Anthony had indeed signed his extension. And I told you why I was busy watching a Rookie of the Year season unfold, for which you still owe me that jersey. Thanks for that.
I do. Yeah.
And I mean, that's why. Yep. Atta babe.
Yep.
And I genuinely, I meant it when I said it. It was not a troll job at that moment in time. It was me just working through like what direction is this once proud franchise headed? You know, I wasn't trying to troll there, and so I want to apologize to the Red Sox fans if they felt that way, because I wish you guys nothing but the best in the pursuit of a once shortstop turned second baseman. Maybe you land him, and maybe you land an outfielder that you don't need either. So yeah, sorry about that initially.
Wow, that was big of you, Dallas.
Yeah. That was really good.
It's big of you. Love the sweatshirt today. The Monarchs, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get that at the museum?
Sure did. Yep.
Oh, yeah. They got great merch at the Negro League Museum, by the way. If you're ever in Kansas City.
Incredible merch. I actually walked in there with it, and Mr. Kendrick was like, "Nice hoodie." And I was like, "Yeah, that's right."
Yeah,
that's right.
It's unbelievable. So,
yeah, I go there, and I think I end up buying like a jersey and a hoodie, or a jersey and a shirt. Like I got all my girls' shirts. I got Mega jersey, or I got Mega hoodie as well. Yeah, they have incredible shit there.
All right,
you got to be careful.
Yeah, you'll end up spending a lot. The jacket, yeah, the jacket alone was like, that was my budget for the month. All right, we'll be back on Thursday. Sal Frelick Thursday. Check out the Pat Murphy interview. And also, last thing for me, Baseball is Dead merch is coming soon.
That's not even breathing hard. What are you talking about? Yeah, we'll see it soon.
Okay, bye.
We out!